What's up, sports bettors? The last prize picks entry we had, I turned $100 into 200. So this was a flex play, a 5 pick flex play on prize picks. So if you go 5 of 5, you 10x your money, 4 of 5, you 2x your money, etc. So depending on how many of your player props you win, and you can see I followed the value. I had some MMA props, some NBA props, some NFL props, right? Always just following the value. It's actually funny, a lot of people will be like, yo, why didn't you have a play on prize picks today? Why do you have a play on Thrive Fantasy? Like I gave out this underdog entry earlier. And the truth of the matter is I have all these sportsbook accounts. So all I'm showing you is the stuff I'm betting. Data-driven, sharp bets for the sportsbooks I use. I don't know. Maybe if you look at OddsJam at a different time, there's better plays on prize picks. I don't know, right? Long story short, the reason I have a play on prize picks today is I found 5 great prop bets to include into a 5-pick flex play. And we've explained this before, but when you're playing on prize picks, and again, it's completely free to browse odds on OddsJam. So this is just, UFC. But you can look at any sport, It's not just UFC, soccer, tennis, whatever you want to look at. It's free to browse odds with OddsJam. And essentially, what you're going to see right here in this UFC fight is the over-under for total rounds. All the sports books have the over heavily juiced, right? 10bet, Caesars, DraftKings, Pinnacle Sportsbook, the sharpest bookmaker in the world. They're all pricing over 1.5 total rounds for Wellington Turman as a favorite, right? All the sports books have lines juiced towards the over 1.5 rounds, so the over 1.5 rounds is favored. We're getting minus 119 implied odds on prize picks. So long story short, in a 5-pick flex play on prize picks, again, we just saw earlier when I went to, my previous entries, there's nothing about, it's just you win 5 out of 5, here's your payout. You win 4 out of 5. It's not like on prize picks, if you pick the overs versus the unders, your payout changes. 20 to win 60, we switch this to an over, 20 to win 60. So the over-under will never change odds on prize picks. Any 5-pick flex play entry, you're getting minus 119 implied odds on your plays. So you just want to look for spots where you're getting value in 5 picks at minus 119 implied odds. So this is an example of the first play I went with. All the bookies have the over 1.5 total rounds juiced. So we can get minus 119 on prize picks. That's a play we want to be on. So I found that bet using the EV tool, as well as some other props. So this is an extremely profitable bet on prize picks. I typically, you can just select to see prize picks, 5-pick flex. And typically I just put together the 5 most profitable plays. So for example, the most profitable play before we go back to that UFC one is Devin Vassell over 17.5 points, right? So minus 119 is the implied odds on prize picks. All of the bookies have this juiced minus 140 to minus 200. So as you'll notice, there's some differences from sportsbook to sportsbook, but it's very clear every bookie has the over for Devin Vassell's point total heavily juiced. And we're getting minus 119 implied odds on prize picks. So this is just a no-brainer bet, right? The way to beat the sportsbooks isn't to just put your finger to the wind and trust your gut. It's to use, all these sportsbooks price bets independently. So you use their odds, to find discrepancies and find value. So this is an example of a play with value with a 10% profit margin, insanely profitable. So this is something you just have to be on tonight. Another thing people ask about a lot is just how do you get these max bet sizes? Or just like, why did you put $100 on this versus $1,000 on this? And the truth of the matter is, you'll see they have this little max column on underdog, and that's basically the same for any sports book. You can see for NFL player props, looks like underdog, if you have an NFL player prop, they're giving you a max wager of $1,000, but if it's all NBA, then it's $2,000. I don't know. So long story short, a lot of times it's determined by the bookmaker, right? That's why sports betting, it's lucrative. This bet has a 10% profit margin. We're getting the return of the stock market over the return of the stock market in a year in one bet. That's going to end tonight. So this is a ridiculously profitable play. But again, the reason I don't want to bet on sports full time, and it's a fun, very, lucrative side hustle for me and was before I started OddsJam, is, it's just like you're not going to make $100 million doing it because sportsbooks, they don't give you unlimited bet sizes, right? So you kind of have to pick your spots. And it's a fun, lucrative side hustle, but again, it's not scalable. So this is the first play we went with. Next, we have a hockey player prop. So as we always say, when you're using OddsJam, which is just kind of taking all this market information, so we can see PrizePicks and Underdog have started to release some NFL player prop lines, which you can see right here. So this is called a screen on OddsJam. And what I like to do with the screen is you can just kind of like very briefly scan for discrepancies. So one example of a play, that play I actually took earlier, which I showed you, is Davis Mills. There's a 35-yard gap between where PrizePicks is setting his passing yards line and Underdog Fantasy. So as a sharp bettor, your alarm bell should go off. If you want to take Davis Mills over in passing yards, seems like an incredible time considering you can get his line at 187.5 on PrizePicks. If you want to take his under, probably an incredible spot to bet the under, right? So OddsJam's all about taking these millions of odds kind of on sportsbooks. There's literally limitless stuff you can bet on. This is just PrizePicks for, NFL player props. You go to NHL player props. There's just so many things you can bet on. So all OddsJam does is it takes all this data, consolidates it, and tries to make it actionable, right? Like here are the plays with value. So this is the next prop we went with. Sam Bennett under 3.5 shots on goal. It's less profitable, lower profit margin, but I mean, hey, all the bookies are pricing this minus 160 or worse. So lines are heavily juiced towards the under. But we just said, right, PrizePicks, they're not varying your payout depending on if you pick the over or the under. So the implied odds for a 5-pick flex, it's always minus 119 on the over and the under. Doesn't matter what sport, whatever. Any 5-pick flex, you're getting minus 119 implied odds. So this is the second play I went with. Sam Bennett under 3.5 shots on goal. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? It's like being an investor. If there's value in one industry, they'll focus on that industry. Here, the value's in the NHL player prop in the Hurricanes-Panthers game. There's no inside information I have about this game or this player. It's just rational sports betting. All the bookies pricing this minus 160, and we're getting minus 119. That's just a no-brainer, right? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All these bookmakers treat them as independent data points of where the line should be set, hunt for value. DeRozan, under 4.5 rebounds. Profit margin continues to go down, but clear value, right? Very clear value. Booms. So definitely a play you want to be on. All the bookies have the under heavily favored. And again, I'm sorry if you just want to see the picks. I try to make this educational as well, kind of explaining to you, just how do the sharps, how do the pros think about sports betting? And hopefully it's useful to you. Here we have the UFC prop. So what's cool about OddsJam is over 1.5 rounds is the exact same thing. So if we go to MMA, it's called fight time. So over 1.5 rounds is the same as over 7.5 minutes, right? It's the same thing. So OddsJam, what OddsJam does is it just consolidates it for you. Total rounds, it converts fight time into total rounds for you. So final pick, we have another hockey prop. And really, again, follow the value. It's really that simple. 5-pick flex play. So 4 out of 5 win, we win 200. 5 out of 5 win, we win $1,000. Let's make some frickin' money.